If you're building AI voice agents, you will probably at some point you want to train them on your own data. Today I will show you a very nice and easy way to do it using Gemini file search. We will set it up in a way that it automatically syncs your documents that you keep in Google Drive so that you don't have to run the system manually. Then we will connect it with a Vapi voice agent so that it can provide accurate answers to your questions. This is a step-by-step tutorial and I recommend watching the entire video so you will be aware how to implement this system by yourself. But I will also share the workflow and Vapi prompt in my free Skoll community. You can find the link in the description below. The first thing I want us to do is set up the n8n automation. And I'm going to start with setting up Google Drive. So what's going to happen is when you upload a document to your Google Drive folder, the workflow will be automatically triggered and it's going to upload that file into your Gemini file storage. And to make this work, what we need to do first is for the first step, let's find the Google Drive node. And here we need to find the on changes involving a specific folder. I will show you how you can authenticate your Google Drive account. So to do that, you need to click on Create New Credential. And if you scroll down, you can see that you don't have an option to sign in with your Google account. And for that, we need to set up a few things. What you need to do is to go to console.cloud.google.com. And once you're there, this is what you're going to see. If you don't have anything here, what you need to do is create a new project. I already have a project, so I'm not going to do it this time. And once you have a project, this is what you will see. And the first thing we need to do here is go to APIs and Services. And here let's click Enable APIs and Services. And let's find Google Drive. This is what we'll need, Google Drive API. If you don't have it enabled, you need to enable it. Then once you have it, you can go back. And let's go back to the main page. Once you're here, we need to go to the credentials page. And let's click on Create Credentials. And let's click on OAuth Client ID. And let's select the web application here. I'm going to give a name, Gemini File Search. And let's scroll down a little bit. And to the authorized redirect URLs, let's click on Add URI. And I'm going to copy the URL that I see in n8n, this one. Then we can go back to Console Cloud. And I'm just going to paste in the URL. Then we can click on Create. And after that, we will see a client ID and a client secret. So I'm going to copy the client ID and go back to n8n. And we can just paste it here. And you can see that we also need the client secret. So I'm going to get the client secret as well. And once you pasted all the required data, you can see that a button appeared that we can click to sign in to our Google account. And it can say that Google hasn't verified this app. So if you see this, what you need to do is click on Advanced. And I'm just going to click on Go to n8n Cloud. And you can see that the connection was successful. So now we can close this. And now we successfully connected our Google account. What I'm going to do next is to go down to this folder. And I'm going to select a folder that I want n8n to watch. That means that within this test folder, if I make any changes, if I upload a document, for example, n8n is going to notice that and is going to trigger the workflow based on that change. And we have the option here to select what to watch for. For example, if I want to watch for file creation, or if I want to watch if I update a file, I can also do that. And we also have these other options like folder created or folder updated. But I'm going to select file created. And once you have that, you can close this and I'm going to click on Save. And we also need to activate the workflow. And once we activated it, I'm going to test this out. So I'm going to go to my Google Drive and I'm going to drag in the file that I'm going to use. And I will also show you how it looks like. So this is a knowledge base about a real estate. You can see that it has the street name, it has the age or heating, all kind of information that is related to real estate. And we will use the Vapi AI agent to get all this information. So let's see if it worked. Once you have the execution, you can open it. And what I'm going to do is copy the data that we received. And I'm going to open the Google Drive node and I will pin this data. You can see that we received all kind of information like the name of the file. And what we need to do is download this file from our Google Drive. So the next node will be Google Drive node as well. And I'm going to select download file. And here I need to provide which file I want to download. We have the option to select it from a list or select it by an ID. And I'm going to click on select by ID. So we need to provide the ID that we received from the previous node. So if you scroll down, you can look for the ID and this will be that. So I'm going to drag it in. And once you did that, we can click on execute step. And it will take a few seconds until it downloads your file. And once you have that, you can see that we have this as a binary data. So now we can use this file and upload it to our Gemini file store. But before we do that, we need to create that store. So what I'm going to do is click on save, and I'm going to add another trigger node, which will be manual trigger. And I will use this node to execute an HTTP request node. So the purpose of this one will be to create a Gemini file store for us. What we need to do is go to ai.google.dev and you need to find the file search. And this is the documentation that explains how you can do that. So the first thing we need to do is create a file search store, and we need to use this endpoint, which will be a post request. And I'm going to copy this URL. And this will be post request. And let's paste in the URL here. And you can see that it has the key value, and this will be the place where you need to provide your Gemini API key. And because it's after a question mark, this will be a query parameter, so we will need to use a query out method. So I'm just going to delete this one. And what we can do is click on authentication, click on generic credential type, and let's select query out. And I'm going to create a new credential. And for the name, we can say key. And for the value, you need to create a Gemini API key. And the way you can do that is click on Get API Key. And here you will have the option to create an API key. And once you have that, you can copy that value and go back to n8n and paste that key here. I'm going to close it because I already did it. And once you have that, let's see what else we need to do here. We need to provide a display name. So let's go back to n8n, and I'm going to set a body parameter, and here we can just say display name. So this will be the name of your file store. I'm going to call it knowledge base. And once you have that, you can close this, and I'm going to execute the workflow. Now we can see that the store was created, and I'm going to pin this data, and we can close this. The next thing we need to do is get the file that we downloaded from Google Drive, and we will upload it to this store. And before I move forward, I'm going to rename this node. And this will be create store. Next, what we need to do is add an HTTP node after the download file node. And I'm going to call this upload file. And let's check the endpoint that we need to hit. So if we go back to the file search documentation, we can see that this will be the URL that we need to call. So I'm going to copy this. You can notice that I'm not copying the key because we already added through our query authentication setup. So once you have that, you can go back to n8n, and this will be a post request. And let's also select the authentication method, which will be the query out. And once you have that, you can scroll down, and I want to send a body. And to the body content type, I want to select an n8n binary file. And here we can provide the file that we downloaded from Google Drive. So what we need to do for the input data field name, we need to check the name of the field where the binary file is stored. Click on execute. Let's open it, and we will see that it is stored in a data field. So let's go back to the HTTP node, and I'm just going to write data here. And there's one more thing that we need to do is let's switch this to expression. And here you can see it needs the store name that we previously created. And to get that, let's go back to the create store node. And I'm going to copy the name here. And let's go back to the upload file node. And let's switch this to the name that I copied. So it will look like this. And let's close this. And if we set up everything correctly, this should upload the file into our store. So let's try it out. Okay, it looks like it worked. It seems like it was uploaded to our store, which is nice. So I'm going to click on save. And to test it out, now we need to set up our reg agent. So what I'm going to do is add the chat trigger. And I'm going to close this. After that, let's add an AI agent node. Let's add a system message. So I'm going to select the first one here. And I'm just going to paste in the prompt that I created. And when we have that, we can close this. And I'm going to provide a chat model here. I will use OpenAI. You need to get your credentials to be able to use it, and you can get it on platform.openai.com. And once you connected your account, you can close this. And I'm also going to add the memory. When I have a conversation with this reg agent, it will know about the previous messages that we had with it. We can keep the context window at 5, and you can close this. And for the tool, let's add an HTTP node. And here we need to provide a way to retrieve the data from the knowledge base. So I'm going to go back to the Gemini documentation. And if you scroll down a little bit, you can see that we need to use this one here. So let's copy this. Let's also remember that it will be a post request. So I'm going to switch this to post. And let's paste in the URL. And let's also add the authentication, which will be the query out. And we need to provide a body. And I'm going to switch this to using JSON. And let's see what we need to set up here. So you can see that we need to provide the contents and the tools field, which will be our store name. So I'm just going to copy all this. And let's paste this here. So for the text, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the AI decide what will need to be inserted here. Let's say from AI, and I'm going to call this message. And I will also set up a description here, which will be the question or information that the user requests. And next, we also need to provide the store name. So I'm going to delete this. And let's find our store name. So we can get that from here. And now we can paste it here. And let's also rename this node. I'm going to call this knowledge base. And I'm going to provide a description. Trigger this to retrieve information from the knowledge base. And now let's close this. I'm going to click on save and let's test it out. I'm going to ask, please tell me about the property at Willow's group. Okay, it looks like it got the information and it's saying that the property at Willow Grove is a semi-detached house built around 1985. Let's see if that's the correct answer. So let's scroll down here. And it said that it's a semi-detached house, which is correct. And it was indeed built in 1985. So our reg system works. Next, let's set up the voice agent so we will be able to communicate with it. Next thing I'm going to do is go to Vapi and let's create a new assistant. I'm going to call this reg and let's select the blank template and now we can click on create assistant. And here let's scroll down a little bit. For the first message, I'm going to add something generic like hello. How can I help you? And I will also paste in the system prompt that I created before. So this is a very simple prompt. Basically what it does is when I ask a question from the voice agent, it's going to get all the information from the get answer tool. So we will need to create that. But before I do that, let's click on publish. And once we have that, let's go to the tools. And I'm going to create a new tool. This will be a custom tool. And let's call it get answer. And for the description, we can say use this tool to provide information for the user about a property. And we can scroll down and let's add a parameter. And I'm going to call this question. This will be the question of the caller about a property. And I'm going to set this as required. And then we can apply it and let's click on save. And don't forget to add this tool to your assistant. So let's select get answer and click on publish. And I will also add the nice voice. So let's go to the voice tab and I'm going to select 11 labs. And I like the voice from Emma. I think it's this one. So now we are almost ready to try this out, but we need to configure n8n a little bit. And I'm going to delete this chat message trigger. And instead of that, we will need to use a webhook node. So let's select webhook and let's switch this to post. And I'm also going to set the respond to using respond to webhook node. And let's close this and let's connect it to the AI agent. And to the end, don't forget to add a respond to webhook node. And here we need to send the response to JSON. And I'm just going to paste in the response that it expects. So we will need to add the tool call ID that we will receive from Vapi. And I'm also providing the result that will be the output of the AI agent. And I'm going to set this to expression. And here you can notice that I'm using a replace all JavaScript method. So basically what it does is that it gets all these characters, which is a line break, and replaces it with nothing. And this is needed, otherwise the workflow fails. Let's close this. And I'm going to click on save. And let's also copy the production URL from here. And we need to go back to Vapi and go back to the tools. And let's add this URL to the server settings. And let's try it out. So first I'm going to try it out with a chat. So let's ask something about the property. I'm going to ask, tell me about the age of the property at Willow Grove. You can see that it triggered our tool, but there was some problem. So to figure this out, let's go back to n8n and let's go back to the executions. And it looks like there was an error on the memory node. And there was a problem with the session ID, which makes sense because we changed the chat node to the webhook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this data from the webhook. And let's go back to the editor and I'm going to pin this. And instead of the session ID, we can use the chat ID here. And this will be a unique identifier of the current chat session. So we can use this to keep the context through the entire conversation. And I need to trigger the webhook node, so we will be able to reference it. There should be an error. Okay, I will stamp this. And now we are able to drag the key here. So let's find the chat ID. I'm going to drag this here and let's try it out. So let's trigger the webhook node. And we also need to switch this to define below. And here we need to provide a user message. So what I'm going to say is the question or information the user wants to know. And after that, I'm going to drag in the question that is sent from Vapi. And now let's close this. Let's click on save. And I'm going to try it out by saying, let's try again. Okay, it looks like we received the answer, which seems to be correct. So let's also try it out by calling the voice agent. But I know that it will fail. So what I'm going to do is instead of chat, I'm going to switch this to call. And currently it is undefined because the pin data is coming from the chat. So I'm going to save this. And I'm going to go back to Vapi and I can call the assistant now.
Hello, how can I help you?
Hi, can you tell me about the age of the property that is located at Willow Grove?
The property at Willow Grove is about 38 years old. It was built around the year 1985. Let me know if you need more details.
Okay, let's also ask something else. Can you tell me about the type of the property?
The property at Willow Grove is a semi-detached house. Feel free to ask if you'd like more details.
Is it listed?
The property at Willow Grove is not currently listed for sale or as a designated landmark. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to know.
Okay, it looks like everything works. I hope this video was useful. I will provide the workflows and all the prompts in my free School community. You can check the link in the description below. And if you need a custom system for your business, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to provide the link to my website where you will be able to contact me. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you soon.